Hi, welcome to this Being Green permaculture video all about worms. Worms are amazing little creatures that help create soil. We couldn't live without them on the earth, and they're some of the smallest creatures that you can farm in your very own backyard for almost no money. So, how to farm worms in your own backyard? Well, you need something to keep them in. So this polystyrene box is a perfect box because it is insulated, and worms like cool, dark, damp conditions, just like soil. So we start with the box and we put a pipe in the side, just at the bottom, to allow for drainage. We'll find out why that is later on. The first thing I put in is some damp newspaper. So I'll put that in. This keeps the worms nice and cool and retains the moisture in the box so they don't dry out. So we spread that out in the box so it's all nice and even on the bottom. Okay, so that takes care of the dampness. Now you need to give them something to start off to eat. So I put in compost, but you can also use cow manure or rotted horse manure. So I'll start with put the compost in. Spread that out in the bottom. That also helps to keep it damp for them. So this is already a food source. It's not a continual food source, but it's a starting food source. Then we'll add our little worms. Now I have about a handful here, which you could start a farm with. You could start a farm with that much or more, but not much more than about half a litre of worms for this size farm. So we'll put them in there in a minute. Spread them out. So just spread them out a bit so they don't compete all that much. So they're going to love that food source and that damp environment. Now to keep them especially dark and cosy, we're going to put another layer. So we need shade cloth or a piece of carpet or an old sheet, or you could use some old clothing, as long as it helps to keep them dark and cool. So there they are, they're all in their box. Now, what I do at the end, I just add a bit of water. That makes doubly sure that they're nice and damp. And finally, I add the lid. Now the advantage of the polybox is that you can put on a nice lid which keeps the damp and the cool in. However, it's too airtight. So I've punched about a couple of dozen holes in here, and that prevents it from being airtight, allows for the airflow so they can stay alive. Now what to feed your worms? Mostly what they really enjoy is vegetable, fruit scraps, any sorts of cuttings and scraps from the kitchen that you have. You can also add weeds, and you can add small amounts of grass clippings and that sort of green material. I do add a small amount of cooked material, but I will keep that really to a minimum. No meat, because it will go rancid and flies will attack rather than worms. Or no dairy really, because that's another rancidity problem. You can also add onions and citrus. People have issues with these, and the reason that onions and citrus are supposedly unliked by worms is because they don't break down very fast. So the thing with worms is that they don't actually eat food. They don't have teeth. What they do is they eat the material that is broken down by microorganisms. So they have to break it down first, and then the worms consume what has been already broken down. So citrus and onions take a very long time to break down, so that is why worms don't appear to like them. But yes, so the other things are kitchen paper. Because it's just carbon, then the microorganisms don't tend to break it down very fast, so it tends to sit in your farm. Tea bags can contain plastic, so what I like to do is just open the tea bag up and empty the tea bag into the farm. So this amount, about 2 litres, is good about every fortnight. If you check the farm after a fortnight and there is still food in there, do not add any more. The thing with this material is when it's breaking down, it creates heat, and heat is an enemy to a worm farm. It will kill off the worms, so you must leave it to a point where it's enough food for the worms but not too much heat. So you can test it with your hand. If it's too hot, then either remove some of the material or give it a good wash down of water and just leave it until they've eaten it all up. So where to put your farm once you've set it up? I like to elevate my farm on, you could use another upside down polystyrene box, and that, I need a bucket positioned under the pipe. So we open up the farm and add all of the food. Spread it out over the farm. And replace the shade cloth. And again, water the farm. Okay, it's a very good idea to keep farms damp, especially in southern areas of Australia. The biggest problem is them drying out in summer. So you must keep them damp. Even if you don't feed them every week, you should water them every week. Place the lid. So this is not a shady spot, but I would put it in a shady spot. After a while you'll see that out of this pipe will come liquid, which is the worm leachate. Worms process material and exude a liquid which helps the plants to absorb nutrients from the soils. Plants obviously don't eat soil, they absorb liquid nutrients from the soil, and the worms provide some of that. So you can use the liquid, you collect it in bottles, you can dilute it down 1 to 10 and use it as a foliar spray on your plants or directly onto the soil. The other product that comes from a farm is worm castings, which is, it's really like real soil. It's a perfect pure humus, and you can add this to garden beds. You can also put it into potting mix and use it for seed raising mix. So if you want to start worm farming, get some worms from a friend, or you can buy these special tiger worm composting worms from a hardware shop. Keep them dark and cool and damp. Feed them moderately, and remember to farm their wonderful nutrients they produce. And have fun with worms. Thanks for watching.